one of the areas, what we wanted to move in the next segment is, the client-facing roles have what we've seen has been, one of the largest, biggest changes in the new environment. The sales and business development teams across all sectors, including at Acuity, are trying to find new ways to reach out to their clients with no face-to-face meetings. Most of the selling, marketing, brand building, networking, etc., have moved to a digital platform. So in the next segment, we want to focus a bit on the digital platform and see how compliance function are working with businesses to manage the push to the digital platform. So in terms of the question, I wanted to get your views. If you're seeing an increase, for example, in the distribution compliance tab, are you seeing increasing marketing literature reviews or an increase in alerts from social media perspective? And and also in terms of the investments in digital media platforms, and which is enhancing the capability to reach out to the clients and manage CRM. So are you seeing how a compliance function coping up with these new platforms, and what are you seeing in that space from a business development standpoint?
Well, yeah, thank you very much for that question, because that really seems to be the majority of the work that I'm doing these days. We were already seeing some aspects of our digital marketing program increasing before the pandemic, but as I mentioned earlier, it's now no longer just a question of volume, it's also a question of speed. So they want it, and they want it yesterday. And the level of complexity has increased. So what do I mean by that? Well, we may have this new thing now is search engine optimization, and wanting to have all of their terms approved, and you have to know everything that's going on in the business so that you don't trip over something that you're doing in the private fund side or in another area inadvertently. So it requires us to really be connected to what's happening on a daily basis. Additionally, things like paid search, paid social. There's just so many different ways that because there isn't the same level of physical contact between people, that they're trying to get become top of mind with our clients and prospects, right? So it's a constant push of information. As I mentioned before, you might have a single webinar where you had an email invitation, the webinar, and then the follow-up. Well, now you're going to have all sorts of other things, and they may be looking to use it broader in order to get more folks to come to our site. We actually, right before the shutdown, we also launched a new institutional website. So we've had a lot of things happening simultaneously, and at the timing, of course, it's never good to have a shutdown or a pandemic, but we had all of these things, and business has to go on. And so there's just been a lot of considerations that we've had to take into account. As I mentioned, we've got specific kinds of disclosure or attestation that we've asked folks to pull in. They want to take a certain client type of an interaction and make it available to prospects. So what does that mean, and what additional controls do we have to put around that? As Larry mentioned, record keeping is huge. What are we doing? How are we doing it? The proliferation of marketing and digital tools that the teams want to use are sometimes more sophisticated than the compliance people who are being asked to review them. And so as a result, we have to really get up to speed very quickly. And so needing to make senior management aware of the need to maybe even bring in some outside counsel or other resources as a result of having so much more to monitor in the space of social media or web, having to bring on more staff. I know that we're having that conversation with Acuity right now about bringing on more staff to help us manage some of this increased volume. So it's a multi-pronged thing. There's never a single right answer. It may be, we can touch it this way, and this way, but we've got to make sure that everybody's on board with what we're doing, how we're doing it, and, how do we need to ensure that we've got an appropriate control environment that we can go back and test later. That's another piece of this, right? So lots of considerations in this space. Cross-border is another thing that, you know, we're seeing a lot of in our business anyway, where you have folks that are involved maybe with a multinational organization and they're wanting to have conversations with folks that are in another country. Well, in the past, they had to get on a plane and go have that meeting. Today, they just have to get on a phone call or on a Zoom call. And so do those same cross-border considerations apply? And what do we need to do about that? Because things are happening so much faster. So there's a lot of things that we're seeing today, and I'd be really interested in hearing what other folks are experiencing as well in this space.
Yeah, I'll throw something out there, Deb. Those are great points. I mean, you know, at the end of the day, the question it's a rigged question because you're asking how do we control sales and marketing people, because you can't control sales and marketing. It's like corralling water with your hands. They'll always find
some butterflies.
That hasn't changed. But like what we've done is trying to kind of explore new ways to kind of digitally monitor and surveil them. You know, you can connect personal devices, you have video tools, you have other things to do. But it's not a panacea, but I've always, you know, it's training and it's supervisory responsibility. It's who's the head of marketing or who's the one responsible, and you get them on board and have them have accountability. And you'll see if they're a good leader, then hopefully that will trickle down. And that's something you just never give up on. It's a daily pursuit to convert those people to get buy-in. And I think if you have it, that will help. And that gets back to the early time of this call is employee compliance risk. You know, that it all comes back to that.